So this session is being recorded. Today's Tuesday, March the 5th. Welcome back, everyone, from your break week. Hope you guys all had a good week and had some time to relax. Here we are now. This is the second half of the semester. We're going to have a strong finish. We have a lot more to cover in this class. Hope you guys had fun so far. This is more like the introduction barrier of getting to understand what UX is and UI. We're using programs like XD, which is a great application. Unfortunately, it's being discontinued. So what I have to do is segue over to Figma, which will be the next part. So not only you guys get to learn XD, you get to learn Figma as well. So two applications you can put in your resume. And in the industry, they use, I think, Figma more now because of that particular reason. However, like I ask professionals and people around the industry, people still use XD, so it's not like a lost skill, because everything you learn from XD you can apply for Figma, right? It's a very similar application. It's a different development. One's Adobe, and Figma's independent, that Adobe's trying to purchase. Adobe's trying to acquire Figma for years now. It's not new. So it's like a little bit of a cat and mouse game. Until that happens, eventually Adobe will acquire Figma. That's something that we have no control over. All we have to do is go with the flow and learn the apps that we give it to us, right? But nonetheless, this skill set that you're going to gain here will always evolve and transition to any type of new media or apps that is out there. And currently, the industry standard is what we're learning right now. So everything, you're in good hands, and whatever you're doing in this class will definitely help you propel you to this industry of UX, UI design with your graphic design skills, which are important. So let's go ahead and I'm going to share my screen now and show you, you demanded me to show you some more samples of the expectation of this group project that you're doing right now at the moment. So I'm going to go ahead and do that first, and then I'll start the lesson with my last. I have one more presentation to do to wrap up the 5 planes of UX. We're talking about the surface. I'm going to cover that briefly later as well. And then I'll do like an overall review with XD with some other additional features that will help you with your group project as well. So there's a lot to cover today, all right? So here we go. Let me just close the window. I think you can see my screen okay. Make sure here. Can you guys see my screen okay? Let's quickly see my screen. Perfect. All right. So this is class number 8, week number 9. This is how things get a little, the numbers are offset a little bit because week 8 was our break week and class 7 was week 7. So now class 8 would be like week 9, basically. Just keep that in mind, please. So we have the surface design file to look at, which I already have downloaded here on my desktop. I'm going to show you. I have some wireframes to share with you for the next upcoming project. I know it's an XD file, but you can definitely implement the same wireframes in Figma as well. Then we have a mobile menu, just like something I wanted to share with you from an exercise point of view. A basic app design setup example, and a treasure chest hunt game, which we did last time we were here as a good little review and to have some interactive fun with the application. So let's go ahead and start with one of these items right now. So let's open the Surface Design PDF file. Okay. So surface plane for UX UI, this is the last plane, right? And all these planes that we're covering for the past several weeks now are a gateway for you to learn to immerse yourself with this, UX industry and how things evolve from basically from the research point of view to doing the planning, the interviews, the user personas. All the projects I gave you are industry standard recognized assignments that professionals do every day for like big corporations. They do user personas, they do interviews, they do studies, they do research. That stuff is very important. This is why the group app project that you're doing right now entails those things as well. That's why you're working with groups 3s and some of your 4s because of the size of the class. So some of you have to do your research. Now, interview could be another thing. I do want to Emphasize that. If you could interview people, what they think about your product or app, that'll be great. Okay, if you can't, don't worry about it. I know it's time sensitive and you have other projects as well, not just mine, right? So keep that in mind. So this is the surface. Okay, this is the last one. So basically, we covered the strategy, the scope, the structure, the skeleton. This is the surface. The surface is like where you shine the most. You know why? Because you have the graphic design abilities. So a lot of people that study this course are not graphic designers, right? They're just creative marketing individuals that want to get into UX and, you know, do their best with the stuff you've done already. You have the upper hand because you have Adobe in your skill set. You're using Figma. You will use Figma. You're using XD. So you guys using applications with your creative graphic design abilities to make this area here really, really important, okay? And stand out. So what is the surface? Okay, so the surface is called the visible language, okay? So the visible language of how everything that's interpreted up to now is displayed, okay? This is what we see. Visual language indicates context and conveys information. These are the things that you're quite familiar with already. Just to kind of reiterate those points, as you can see, layout, like the formats, proportions, grids, and organization. Typography, you've had a class since semester 1 about typography and how important typography is. And it's still in UX very important. Because typography, without typography, there's no content. So you as a graphic designer have to make sure you take care of that aspect very carefully. So color, another important part, okay? Influencing perception and emotion. Imagery, signs, icons, and symbols, okay? Then you have sequencing. Sequencing is the overall approach to visual storytelling, okay? And then you have visual identity, how the organization or the product line expresses itself in visible language, okay? So these are the most important common forms of the language for visual surface information. Here are some of the principles of effective user interface design, which is part of UX, of course. So organize, economize, communicate. Okay, and all these three parts overlap because they're very important. Like, let's say you have 3 members in your group. One of your members is part of the organizing structure. One of you is part of the economy part of it, where it has to talk with budgets, money. This is not something you're doing right now, but let's say if it was a real product, you will have to talk about what's feasible. What's the budget? How much money do you have? What resources can you spend or not, right? And the other part of you is doing the communication. So this is all 3 important parts. A clear visual hierarchy enables consistency, clearly signifies relationships, and improves navigation, okay? Obviously, you can see here 2 different ways you can organize a layout. Obviously, this doesn't work too well. It's complicated. A lot of things are set up this way. It's a lot easier to follow, like icons, boxes, buttons, and so on and so forth. The most important element in action should be easily perceived. Non-critical elements should be de-emphasized, all right? And you can see like what a checkbox used to look like back like 15 years ago. You still see some websites with having these old school HTML 1.0 buttons. Now you have more like things like more items like buttons and stuff like in a different form. Just how things transcended from time. Okay, and communicating again, this is a visual design, has to balance legibility, readability, typography, symbolism, multiple views and color, or texture in order to communicate successfully. Pattern recognition, this is like the good old cursive writing fonts. There are many fonts that are easy to read, and any of them are fine to use. But avoid font that is so decorative that it starts to interfere with pattern recognition in the brain. You barely see these kind of fonts on apps, right? Like when do you see this kind of font on an app? Unless it's part of some of the decor, or maybe it's like some kind of those RPG games and there's like a scroll you got to read or a script. But other than that, you rarely see this kind of fonts used. Okay, so be careful. Even serif fonts. So most fonts, like 95% of the fonts, are sans serif. Okay, why is that? Same as the web too. These fonts were popular for prints. When you read books, magazines and stuff, they use those fonts more often. Newspapers. Right now, those days are gone. I mean, they're still around, but not as much as they were 20 years ago. So these fonts are more popular for printing. Okay, and this one obviously is a more decorative font. So be careful. Stick with this one. Okay, 99% of the time. Visual design is not decoration. It should never be based on personal preference. So it's not about what you think. It's what will work, right? It should never be based on what looks cool. Ask how your design choices work, not how they look. So again, ask how your design choices work, not how they look. Because looking is one thing, function is another. Remember, function infuses form. Do they support established objectives? Do they clarify the options available? Do they provide context and guidelines? Do they establish clear information, action, or priority? Right? These are important questions to ask when you look at your product. Visual design principles. There are 4 basic principles, okay? There's also the miscellaneous ones, but these are the ones that are applied to the UI design, user interface that you guys are embarking on. So the 4 basic principles: alignment, proximity, repetition, and contrast. So those are the 4 that we take from this, the 4 takeaways. These principles are interconnected. You will never only apply one principle. They all kind of go together. Alignment, right? I still see people center text for whatever reason. I mean, you know, you got to stick with the left align. It works well, unless it's, I guess, alignment to some kind of an image, or there's a reason for center alignment. I can see it work, but 95 or 90% of the time, stick with the default left align. Okay. Alignment provides cognitive stability. Okay. It creates visual relationships. Every element in the UI should be aligned with one or more other elements. Align everything. This is why guides are very important. And I'm sure you've used guides in InDesign, Illustrator, even Photoshop. And we are going to use guides in XD and the other program as well. Okay, so guides will help you align things properly. And this is an example of how a well website is aligned that works, right? All these things are nicely aligned with one another. That's why it's easy to read. Although it's a lot of information on one page, because it's aligned properly, it's easy to follow and still understand or digest, right? There's another example here. This is actually a true fact. And here's the question. Did bad design decide the 2000 presidential election? Do you guys remember the 2000 presidential election? Who remembers the presidential election in 2000? US. Right? Who was the candidate? Yeah, 2000. Yeah. Al Gore versus George Bush. Remember those 2 guys? They went at it, right? And here's the thing. Do you know it was a close race? It came down to like 1%. And that one vote, I think the Florida, that's why they call it the swing state in the US elections, that one kind of determined who the outcome winner was. But do you know, because of design, poor design, the double votes for, because it was poorly designed, some people got double votes for adjacent candidates. Improbable number of votes for Pat Buchanan in liberal Palm Beach County. And multiple instances of improper counts for candidates because the design was poorly made. Okay? And you can see here how they use this as a reference point, how they did this to offset the votes. Do you see that? Can you guys recognize what I'm saying? What's wrong with this? Can you see it though? You're supposed to check this little circle here based on the candidate of your choice. Well, how the heck does that make sense? How do I vote for this person? I might check this one instead of this one or that one. You see, you can easily make a mistake.
Everything wasn't aligned.
Yeah, they used a very bad design decision. Is what they did. And this affected the elections in the US. Right? See what I'm saying? Like, design is everything, guys. Just because somebody did this kind of stuff, and this is what happened. Yeah, so how do you pick this guy? Do you pick this one? Because the arrows point you to the right one.
How How do you know this one, this or this one or this one?
That's right. Well, the arrow, this arrow means that for this, but again, if you're an 82-year-old person and you don't know any better and you're wearing glasses and you can't see, you can easily choose the wrong one, right? Look at your parents, for example, right? Or your grandparents. They're the folks. How would they understand this?
So what happened to the ballot paper?
Well, I think a lot of people say, I didn't vote for, they voted for the wrong person because it was hard for them to understand what the voting was, right? Anyways, that's just an example how bad design, okay, affected an election, right? This is how catastrophic it could be. Forget the money in the app and the website. This was an election. All right, elements visually, this is proximity now, visually close to each other are perceived in a single group, related by context of use. Unrelated items are visually separated. Group certain elements contextually to form a perceived whole. So this is how it's a good example how you can, that's why we use elements and blocks and sections. I know you guys are doing that in your HTML. It's just easier to group things together in units. Here's another proximity example. In both cases, moving labels to field closer together emphasizes and clarifies the relationship between label and field. Label and field. What do you guys like, the left or the right? Part. The right. But did you know if you learned HTML 20 years ago, you would do something like that? That's like an old school form. This was an old school form. This is more like today, modern form. Right? But see,
Why is there a fax on it then?
Sorry?
Why is there a fax number today?
People still use fax machines today. What? A company I work for does. Because the government has to keep paper records of some stuff. That's why logos should always look good in black and white. That's why logos are black and white. They don't have to be always colorful and grayscale and stuff. Yes, fax still exists. Here's another proximity example. Negative space creates proximity. So you say the good saying, good use of space is important. Okay. A space between graphics, margins, and gutters, space between columns, space between lines of type or visuals. Negative space also enables focus. This is not blank space. It's critical element of design. Repetition is used to create a hierarchy of visual styles, fonts, colors, textures, and graphical elements. Reusing elements of those visual styles and visual elements creates cohesiveness. This is how you can kind of see an example of that. Whether it's the font, the style, the colors, everything kind of matches up nicely together. It has that cohesive look. Repetition. What is this? What's this? For what? For Apple. This is Apple's UI kit for the Apple products. So look how, that's why Apple has a successful thing, because the UI kit works well with their laptops, their iPads, and everything else. Their iPhones, right? It's a very, very nice, clean, cohesive look. And all the icons are nicely, organized and stuff. But without this, Apple will not have a successful product. If Apple didn't have the clean look that you have, so how many iPhones are there? iPhones, okay? It wouldn't be as successful as it is on the market. Now, Android also improved as well. Like both products do well because of that reason. Okay, and speaking of Windows, this is the Windows interface. Well, like this is the computer side, the Windows Surface. Okay, I don't know what version of Windows this is, though. I think it's like 10 or 11 or something. Okay. So, contrast, okay. Okay, here's an example of contrast, right? So contrast is important. A lot of times I see, like, how many times you see websites and apps? You can't read something, or this is hard to point something out. I had the IT person here earlier trying to help me with the stuff. It was a nightmare getting this app to work and sign in. Just the instructions were poorly designed. You couldn't clarify it. Signing in, back and forth. An organization like this, you figure they'll have something. No, It doesn't matter how big you are. Even you go to Bell, Rogers, or Humber, all these big entity corporations, there's a lot of work to be done on design to get things to look user-friendly, and they're not, okay? So there's always room for improvement. So here's an example. Text is easily readable or legible when stark complementary colors are used. Black and white simple, the contrast here. This is, just because colors are complementary doesn't mean contrast is appropriate. If both colors are too bright, eye strain is again the result. Right? You hardly see this in a professional setting, unless McDonald's commercial does a yellow and red thing, right? But usually it hurts the eyes. It hurts the eyes, okay? And this one here, a lack of contrast between text and background strains the eyes because they don't know which color to focus on. Contrast draws attention towards specific elements, right? So you can see here. That's the difference between those two. CNN's website leads it with a red banner, red, okay, across the top. Its vibrancy stimulates users and produces heightened emotions. But colors do provoke emotions. That's why when you see most restaurants use warm colors. Look at Burger King, McDonald's, and Wendy's, and all the food chains, Harvey's. They all have the orange and the red and the yellow and all the nice, hot, warm colors. This is supposed to perceive like hunger, right? You get hungry when you see those kind of colors, heightened emotions. When you see red, provokes an emotion as well, right? Heightened alert. Blue, more calming, more soothing. Green, right? Nice and easy to look at. All these colors play an emotional role. It's up to you to decide what color you're going to use for whatever reason that you're creating the product, whether it's an app or a website. So the contrast between red, white, and black, the primary color scheme of the website, reinforces this reaction. So not just the red, they put the black, the white, and the red together, okay, to put a whole package as a color scheme. So here's another contrast example. Goods website uses color sparingly. This is much calmer. It's a calmer visual approach. It uses a pronounced lack of color and exaggerated negative space around items of interest. This is calming, decreases sense of urgency, and invites visitors to take their time. So this is like more calming scenario. Following the eye. What design elements draw the user's attention first? It's the first object of attention, a distraction from their goals, is what they're drawn to strategically important to you. This is called the F pattern. This is called the Z pattern, right? So there's different ways of presenting these elements. And here's an example of the F pattern. This is the Los Angeles Times. This is their website, and it uses the F pattern as it's like reading a book from left to right, and you follow every line underneath. Then there's, sorry?
Isn't that still a Z pattern?
Not really.
Oh, 1, 2.
Yeah, but you kind of go this way.
Wouldn't that be 2?
I guess you can say that, but the way it's more, because of the way it's set up, I think that follows more that rule. But you can argue definitely it's a Z. You can say it's an X too, right? This is more like a Z pattern here, see? Because you look at the picture, you look at this thing here, then your eyes go down here, then you go over here. Why eye flow patterns matter? They don't happen by accident. Eye movement across a screen is an ingrained instinctive response. When successful, patterns have two important qualities. The eye moves in a smooth flow. When someone says your design is busy, what they're really saying is that the design doesn't lead them around the screen. It gives a guided tour of what's available without overwhelming detail. These available choices should support the person's goals and tasks. Eye tracking studies are cool, but they're not totally accurate. Believe it or not, this is an infrared eye tracking system that they use. Eye tracking records and displays foveal fixations, the smallest part of your visual field that produces the sharpest vision. Eye tracking doesn't record peripheral vision, which makes up 90% of our visual field. Peripheral vision, when you're driving, right? Or when you're walking, you can see all around you. You're not really staring directly at it. That's your peripheral vision. And you can see here, although you're looking here, you're still noticing everything else around it, right? Eye tracking doesn't record peripheral vision, which makes up 90% of our visual field, so we can see anything without fixating on them. As such, these studies don't represent everything participants see. So contrast and uniformity. Contrast draws and focuses attention. Lack of contrast causes the eye to bounce around without settling on anything. When there's no contrast, you're kind of looking for the contrast. Naturally, you're looking for it, but it's not there. Contrast performs three essential functions. Draws users' attention to the essential components of the interface, helps the user understand relationships between navigation elements and content, communicates hierarchy and importance within and across multiple sets of information. We pay attention to differences. Contrast makes things easier, things users really need to see stand out. Especially when there's like, you know, like these days, cookies, enable cookies. The bottom bar shows up now. Accept all cookies. You got to accept the cookies. Otherwise, you can't do anything on the website nowadays, right? So that pops up right on the bottom. Oh, this one here says an error occurred, like, you know, something important to get your attention to amend it. So these are contrasts, whether it's black, red, something that stands out. Contrast can make things users really need to see stand out. You can see here the image on the white background. We pay attention to differences. And there's another thing here. This is important because a lot of times when you, let's say, do something you're not supposed to, with JavaScript code, which you guys are probably doing right now, it dims the background. See how it's like a 50% gray? It's like a light box effect. But that works well with HTML websites, of course. Uniformity enables contrast and change while keeping those elements from overwhelming your users. Okay, and this is how you design most websites now, with columns and sections and rows and things like that, just to keep it nice and organized. And you should know this by now. Most websites, when you, whether you build them on Wix, WordPress, or you code them by hand, a lot of times these are your changing elements. That hardly changes. Most websites now, the menu doesn't change. This stuff changes. So keep that in mind when you make the apps too. The menu should always stay fixed. The layout doesn't change. Okay? Sometimes it does, depending on what page or what website you visit, but most of the time it doesn't. Uniformity in design elements allow you to apply them consistently and recombine them into new designs as the site or app grows. So that's why the UI kits are important. When you made that UI kit, you're going to make another one soon, by the way. You're going to make a bigger UI kit for a website. Even though you're not going to use everything in the website, it gives the website room to grow or scale. So when you do add more things, you have the UI kit to help you. Whether you want to put a player, another menu, another button, another something, the UI kit will always grow with your website. Okay, that's why consistency is important, and you combine them into the designs and you grow the website or the app. Consistency is what makes a system. Consistency in visual design allows users to build an accurate mental model of the way the site app system works. So you should ask questions like, are buttons and controls placed consistently? Is language consistent in labels and messages? Are font styles, images, graphic elements, and color schemes applied consistently? Do buttons or control respond to users' actions consistently in terms of visual display, appropriate context, and functionality? Here's an external inconsistency. This was a fail. This is iPhone 2013 and an iPad 2013. People had a hard time differentiating the two because it just looked different. And then Apple realized this problem, and now they made it more cohesive. So it's kind of like the same product, whether it's an iPad or an iPhone. Here's another one. Do you guys remember this? Night and day different. They did it though. I remember the old iPad too, the manual one. iPod. Do you remember the iPod? The iPod, right? Oh, this is another one here. So they have a website. This is like a college, I think. It's called Gosher College. And it's like even Humber. Like the websites, you know, you click on one link, it looks totally different when you go to the banner or the different, because different parties are involved in the design. Sometimes it's not as consistent. And what's the main thing? Having one design team. This is a different, obviously, than this. Totally changes. And not just many institutions that I've worked for have a similar problem because they're too big. There are many different schools. Here you got Humber Guelph University. You got Humber College. Then we have a Lakeshore campus. We have a North campus. We have an IGS campus. We have different entities. So how do you merge them all together? It's kind of difficult because all have different things. Working with color. Color matters. Color is a critical visual element for most user interfaces. Color has associated meanings that creates emotional responses, prevents confusion in meaning. Color has to be used consistently and appropriately, of course. So without color, can you see this work without color? Even like this is like some kind of a prescription type of website. It just clearly outlines the fields and rows and columns. Without the colors, without the elements, it wouldn't work. The most important areas on the screen. Color can maximize readability and minimize optical fatigue. Color delivers symbolic meanings. Color pleases the eye, sustains visual interest. Highlight, not determine. Notifications, the best thing on your phone. Do you love notifications? Doesn't it annoy you when they stay red? You just want to like get rid of them. So you click on it. It's like you click on it to get rid of your notifications because they're there. But that's the whole purpose of having notifications, to get your attention. So they're supposed to look not too pretty with the rest of your interface on your phone. So you got like a little red bubble saying you got messages and stuff. It's annoying, right? I don't like those. I just yeah, like, it's like, oh, really? Like I don't want these little bubbles all over my phone. So you want to get rid of them, right? Yeah. But that's the strategy behind it. Here's another example, like how color, like if you just use grayscale by itself, it works, but color really emphasizes some of the important parts of your organization, whether it's organized data, chart, numbers. So evaluating proper color use, everything I just mentioned here in a point and form, is the color use functional or is it just decorative? Does functionality depend on color? Would this be just as fictional for someone who's colorblind? Right? There's people out there that can't see some colors, like red might look like a gray or something like that. So you have to consider that as well. Visually impaired. Serif or sans? Some argue that sans serif typefaces are easier to read because of their plain. Others contend that serif fonts are easier to read because of the serifs draw the eye toward the letter. Research shows no difference in comprehension, reading speed, or preferences between serif and sans serif fonts. But I still think this is more print-oriented. This is more screen-oriented, okay? Although I do have like the Kindle, the book, and I do have some nice books that I've downloaded, and sometimes this looks good on the Kindle, but it won't look good on the shinier screen. That's my preference, though. All right, so use it purposefully. If you're going to use more than one typeface, each should be visually distinct from one another. And you guys know the rule, right? No more than how many fonts per screen? 3? Yeah, I like 3. Because I could have 2 different fonts in sizes and styles and colors, of course. But the different fonts themselves, you can't go more than 3, even 2. I would stop at 2. 3, maybe. Like that's a maybe. Is there really room for 3 fonts? Really? Then that's fine because then you got styles. Styles are okay. You got to use multiple styles. You got bold, semi-bold, regular, that works because that leads the eye to the content. So that's important, right? That's why I use it purposefully. Like if you're going to use more than one typeface, each should be visually distinct from the other. Like look at the summary here, right? Look how font this is, and then look at this font, look at that font. You see how there's 3 different fonts here, but they're used in a proper setting. This is the Nike performance app or something. There's another one here, right? Like you have a script font, you got a sans serif font, and you got the serifs for the numbers. Of course, different styling. Styles work too, just like we mentioned. Identify different types of content, headings, body, bullets, charts, etc. Create specific styles for each font, weight, color. Apply these styles consistently on every screen. That's why once you start something, even though if it's, I'm sure you know this, you've done InDesign, maybe a little magazine or a brochure. Once you start, you stay consistent. That's why you have character styles, paragraph styles. You got your colors. You just keep using the same thing and you switch it up here and there, right? Same like a website. Once you have that initial start, you just follow it up. Okay, so this is the last slide. The takeaway, the surface takeaways, things to remember. There are 4 basic principles used to organize visual information: alignment, proximity, repetition, and contrast. Good visual design leads the eye through the screen in a smooth flow, giving the user a guided tour of what's available. Consistency in visual design allows users to build an accurate mental model of the way the site, app, or system works. Okay, so that's pretty much the main takeaway here. And there's one more screen. The right colors draw the eye to the most important area on the screen and influence emotional response. The right color maximizes readability and minimizes optical fatigue. If you're going to use more than one typeface, each should be visually distinct from one another. Use these different styles only to indicate differences in the information you're presenting. All right, and this is just some examples of different websites that you can go ahead and look at these, analyze these design. We're not going to waste time on this, but if you want, you could kind of look at these different examples. Look, you already did the website critique, right? So it's a similar approach to that, where you get to critique what works, what doesn't work, right? Alrighty, so that's a wrap for that one, and that wraps up our presentation sessions for all these different surface planes for the UX. All right, so hopefully you found that. These are yours to keep. So if you guys ever have to go back and read up on these documents, they're there for you. You just have to go back to all the weeks that we covered this stuff. And, you know, sometimes I don't want to take too much time away from the class. I want to do the practical side, but I do have to cover the theoretical side, which involved me reading these presentations and not just talking here and giving you guys sound bites. But I wanted to visually put this together so I can share with you examples of how this stuff actually works. So if you go through like class 1, 2, 3, 4, these are your resources, okay, just to kind of make sure you're on the point here. I like to use, so this is my main takeaway for the whole thing, okay? This here, this is everything right here. This is like your Bible, okay, for the UX. And most Google and all the other main entities that implement UX, they use this format here, okay? And some of the Google has, like Google Sprint has 6 methods, but most of the I've studied have like 5. So again, it comes with strategy, okay? Scope, structure, skeleton, and surface. Those are your main UX planes. And if you want to go back and read up on even one of them, go ahead. There's more to this, but I have to fit it into our curriculum in this class. So I hope you guys did a good job fitting it all in there in half a semester and spending the rest of the half doing more practical stuff. All right. So speaking of the practical stuff, let's go ahead and open one of the files now and work on the example that I have for you. If you want to download from class number 9, I already did this, by the way. Sorry, class 8. The surface design is the PDF that I just gave you. The mobile menu is, these are all XD files. And going forward in the future, I'm gonna replace those other XD files with Figma files. So we're gonna have to work on those as well. Let me just sign in here. This is just a simple example that the UI kit that we used, and the way it works is I think we have a menu here. You see this menu here just opens up like this and closes. Just a quick way that you can do this for, let's say you're working on your app right now with your group and you're wondering, well, how can we put a menu together? This is a pretty common way to do this. And then the buttons go to other sections. But how do you do this? It's very simple. I purposely put a circle here to indicate that target. Don't forget, once you put the design together, which is quite easy to do in XD, you go to prototype, you can see how prototype works. So this is the hidden setup. You see that? So to have a flying menu, this is a review because I know I covered this once in the earlier lesson. But because I'm recording this one, I wanted to reiterate it because it's important. To do a nice menu, the common one that you see on your phone, it's very simple. You simply link a button like the hamburger menu, right? You link it to the next artboard. At the next artboard, you have the menu that you already designed slide in. But see, I like to use the term reverse engineering because I would design this first and duplicate it over here. And just move the thing out of the way. You understand? And then just connect this one to that one.
It doesn't make sense.
What's that? Right? Makes sense, right? So you want to do the design first, move it over. I like that singing part. That's good.
I just said it doesn't make sense.
Doesn't
You're
make
like
sense.
perfect. That's not.
Yeah. So,
All right.
and then to close it, right? To close it, you have this whole thing here where you can click on the other, you can click here. Do you see this? See this blank area? That's called clicking away from the menu, right? When you click away from the menu on your, let's say you're banking on your app, right? What happens when you click away on the menu? The menu closes by itself. There's no real button. There's an X sometimes. The X closes the menu. But how many there's no X? How many there's no X to close the menu? You click on this negative space. Now look at this space here. Watch this, everyone. This here, look, is just a white screen box. It's a rectangle. That's all it is. It's a dummy rectangle. This is just a rectangle on top of that. So it looks like it's kind of like, it's got that dimmed out version, right? It's just a rectangle. And this rectangle, right, connects back to this artboard. So again, this is the hamburger button that initiates this animation. So watch this. When you go to here, tap, animate, auto animate. This artboard, ease out, ease in, doesn't matter. You can try either one. They all work fine. Okay, and the duration. Okay. Now back to this artboard. We click on this screen that I made. Let me just make it. Let's go back to design. I'll just change the color to black. Okay, and I'll make it less transparent. White, black. Doesn't. You can do a screen or dark thing. Yeah. I just drew it. I drew a rectangle because I want people when they click away from the menu to go back to the menu. That's it. So this was an item that you click on. I just changed the color. You can make any color you want. And then that's that. Okay. And then if you want to make these buttons work, you simply you click on them and they go to the other artboards, right? You just click on explore, you go to the other artboard. You just simply link it like that. But the mechanism of this menu confuses a lot of people. This is why I decided to prepare this separately to show you how simple menu works by itself. Let's not confuse other artboards and other links because the other stuff is quite simple. So let's go ahead and play it into practice here. You go here, you click on the menu, opens up, and close it. Okay? Well, I think the white looked better because the screen, because it's like a dark screen or a white screen, so we're just gonna change it back to the white fill. But look, to make it opacity, look at this. You see how it's white? 100%. There's the opacity right here. This is the opacity. So just use the opacity slider here. So it looks like it's ghosted out. So in theory, it's going to look like this and close it like this, right? All right, next example. I'm not going to save. This is all, you can open this up and practice it yourself and see how we did it. Now that I showed you how it's done, you can decipher it for yourself. Next one is called the basic app design setup. Okay. This is a simple app just to kind of reiterate everything we've learned so far. And a lot of you are doing similar designs like this. A lot of you might have an introduction where you have a basic animation of your logo that goes from small to big. This is called a scale animation. Because you can do scale, position, which is movement, scale. You can do rotation as well. You can have a rotate. So what happens is from here, right? Let's go to prototype. This is called time. The time trigger happens by itself. There's no action on the user to click. So sometimes when you want things to happen, like when you open up my banking app, what happens when you open up your banking app? Do you have an animation in the beginning? Most apps have a little something, like a logo spins or something like welcome. And then it goes to the app, right? That's what that is. It's a welcome screen. Now, it's up to you what you want to make it like. Keep it simple. You don't have to go that, complex on it. But keep it in mind because it does create the presentation effect. So if I go ahead and press play now, this is what's going to look like. See the logo come up? Let's play it again. Watch carefully. It came from the bottom up like a bubble, right? So that produces the animation of scale and movement at the same time. And then if you click on the logo, then you click action. Click action, click on the logo, it goes to the signing in part of the app. So then you member or new member, social media signups, you got the buttons here. Let's go sign in. Okay, then you have the other menus here, right? You have the hamburger menu. Then you have the different things like messages, the scrolling things. If you have an app that scrolls down, keep in mind, make sure the screen is elongated vertically. Now, when that happens, this is what separates sometimes XD and Figma, because Figma doesn't have this fold line, right? What's that? The viewport, right? The viewport, exactly. So this is the viewport right here. The viewport is the fold line. So if you go back to design view, there's the viewport, 812. Usually the viewport matches the height of the original artboard. You don't want to mess with this. If you mess with it, you're going to screw up the whole app. Okay? You want to keep the viewport always the same, and the only thing that elongates vertically is this. Look, is the actual artboard itself, right?
I think the viewport should be the same as the artboards.
Yes,
Same size.
same size. Yeah.
Sierra is saying that you're muted.
How am I muted? My mic's on. Hello, check 1, 2. Can you hear me?
No, you're not muted now. A while ago you were. Yeah. No.
Right?
It was a long time ago.
Long time.
Before the class, yes.
Well, I guess this is a visual presentation then. But my mic was on. I don't know. I was muted. Okay. Well, thanks for letting me know. So good thing all of you can read the presentations I talked about earlier, because I was just reading off my slides. I'm just demonstrating here so you can see it. So again, my apologies for the technical stuff. I have an IT guy. Every time I come here half an hour earlier, if you noticed, just to make sure this thing works, and it still takes me half an hour to get it going. because I'm recording the lesson and doing all these things with it too. So, all right. So back again to this main screen, make sure the viewport height, matches the same height. Look at this. Look at the artboard, 375, 812. That means the viewport height is always 812. Okay. All right. And if you look at the whole entire setup here under prototype, it's a very simple connection, right? The only auto animate thing that happens is in the beginning. Everything else is connected through the buttons, right? Sorry? Oh, this file here, if you want to access this file, it's located under my, class 8s. It's called Basic App Design Setup Example number 2. This one. Now, this is where I want you to ask me questions. If you have to ask me questions right now, now's the time to ask me. Remember, this is a prototype. It'll look almost like an app, but let's be realistic. It's not a real app, right? So that doesn't mean everything has to work. Some people ask me, well, how do you put a password? You don't put a password. Who cares? That's like more like an admin thing, a membership thing. Oh, so basically what you do is you scale it down like this. So I make a copy of it here, right? And here I go to design, and I just make it smaller, right? And I just move it from this corner to that corner. And I make sure this, right? This artboard here is set to time, which happens by itself, auto animate. That means when I press play, actually it's gonna mess up now because there's 2 of them. Say which one's which, but let's see what happens. It took the original one, but if I delete this one, if I delete that one, it should consider this one as being the same thing as that one. See, right? And if I want to do a little step, I'm gonna come here and basically do like a little rotation as well, right? So now I'm gonna zoom, make sure this again. Make sure this is set to. You're connecting the artboard. You're not connecting the button. This is not a button. It's an artboard, right? Oh, by the way, this is a button to go to this page. This is a tap trigger. But for me to do an animation, you connect the artboard to the artboard like this, and you call it a time auto animate thing. That's why I did that. Remember that game we did last time? We did the game to really emphasize this. This is more simple actually than the game. The game was like you got to catch the shamrock. I have another example of the game here. If you want to emphasize that, we could. So playing this now, that's what happens. So check it out. How many animation methods do you see there? So look, there's rotate, scale, and move at the same time. 3. Rotate, scale, move. And then you click to go to the next page, right? Any other questions? I thought you were going to ask me this question. Everyone? I thought you were going to ask me, well, it scrolls automatically. As soon as I click here, soon as the artboard is longer, it'll scroll. But make sure the viewport always stays fixed, which is the height, which is 812. But let's watch carefully and analyze what happens here, because I'm surprised none of you are asking me the question already. Watch what happens. Ready? So let me go back here. Oops. Do you even have this linked? Oh. Right? So look what happens when I click on contacts. Look what happens when I scroll down. What's the problem here? What's wrong with this picture?
Oh, okay, the menu at the bottom should be consistent, should be pinned. When you're scrolling, you don't have to go all the way to the bottom to get to that stuff.
Sticky menu.
Sticky menu. menu.
Sticky footer. What do you call it in HTML, CSS? Sticky header, sticky footer. How do you do a sticky footer and a sticky menu? Sticky header, sticky footer. How do you do that? Right? And then how do you go here? Oh, I think we clicked on, what goes here again? Aha. I guess we connect this. Tap. Oh, just tapped on it. Okay, whatever. Right? So let's fix this. Let's say you're to this point, you're like, how can I make that better? Because this is not really perfect, right? This doesn't look nice according to how it's going to work. So I want to make sure that menu at the top is fixed. I want to make sure the bottom of these consistent menus is always present. So to do that, I'm going to have to reposition my layout right now on this thing or fix the elements that I want to. So here we go. Let's do it. Just want to do a microphone check. Mic check. Can you hear me okay? Sierra and, oh, we got Rebecca
Yes.
and Tanya and David. Can you guys hear me okay now? Does my mic work?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, perfect.
Yes, it works.
Thank you. All right. Excellent. So then let's present this case again. We have this animation here. This triggers that menu. You log in, you go to the contacts and you scroll, and we notice this menu's down here. This is up top. How do you make this better? Let's enhance this. And one more thing, when you click on this, I don't think it even works, right? So basically, let's fix it first and then I'll make it work. So how do you fix this? Well, let's go to design view. Let's analyze what this top part is. So this is the menu. This is the settings. This is like a search bar of some kind, right? All these three things should be fixed. So look over here to the right. See this thing here? Fixed position when scrolling. You check that on. So no matter what happens, it's always going to be there. But also make sure you do one of these. Look, it's still not going to look good because they're going to overlap with the item. It's going to be at the front, not at the back. So not only have to do that, you're going to have to go right-click, arrange, bring to front, so it's covering everything else like a real top header should. So that's two things there, okay? Another thing, let's play it right now. Right? See how it's fixed? The top? Looks nice, right? Now let's do one more thing. I like to maybe do a little bit of a drop shadow, just to kind of emphasize a little more. So it's a little bit of drop shadow, a little nice smooth fade. So when I press play now, you'll have, whoops, here, let's see, contacts. The shadow keeps it nicely tucked on top. How about the bottom? Is it necessary? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Like this is not a must. But let's say you say, you know what, I want to keep that always in the bottom as well, just like the top, to keep it consistent. How do I do that? Well, then what you do is you go back to the bottom here. You pretty much grab this menu. Maybe I should group it or whatever, right? You should create like a bar, like a color or something like that, so it overlaps this area. Better yet, I'm gonna delete the guides. Is there a ruler in XD? Is there a ruler? Yes or no? No rulers. Yeah, can you believe they made an app with no rulers? How do you do that? But watch this. If you go to the edge here, you could draw like a guide if you want. But it's tricky. You got to catch it from this invisible ruler. It's called the invisible ruler. You go to the edge and you can actually do this to keep your alignments, as we talked about how in the top does the same thing, how important alignment is, right? So in this case, I'm going to use the alignment feature to keep everything organized like this. And then I'm going to grab these buttons here. Watch this, everyone. Copy. Click on this artboard. paste. When you copy and paste from one artboard to another, it's paste in place automatically. Don't you wish that always happens in every program? What do you do in Illustrator? Or paste in front. Command F. I do that all the time. Command F, paste in front. Command V, paste in back. Command V is paste. Command Shift V is paste in place. InDesign, same thing. Photoshop, somewhat, not really there. These are a different program. But these are the little things that help you a long way to keep it consistent. You don't want the buttons to be slightly off, do you? It's not going to look nice. So make sure the buttons are always in place. Consistency. Here's another thing. Let's put the bar here because we don't want this to look like that. So I'm going to go grab, maybe I'll borrow this bar from up top here. I'm going to option drag it. Maybe I should keep it consistent and white like this one. So I'm going to go maybe draw like a white border. I'll go to the, and look, I have my color styles. I got my fonts, everything, all my components are linked. So I use multiple symbols or components. So I'm going to draw like a nice box here. Back to design view. I'm going to go in like that, right? So this box will create like an actual, an element of design, which will keep my menu nicely tucked away. Now, how do I, is there like outline mode like Illustrator? Unfortunately not. I always thought they might introduce something like that. So what you have to do is this. Bring this, and this to the front. So you can either go Command Shift, right square bracket, or right click, bring to front. And then this can go in the back, so it's situated like that, right? You can give this an opacity if you want. If you want, not necessary, like an opacity, you can see through it. But I think 100% white is okay as well. But it's up to you. Depending on the design that you're doing, it might suit your app better with a fade. I don't know, right? So I'll keep it 100% for now. Another thing, make sure this whole thing here, right, is also fixed. I've also fixed that when scrolling. So this is fixed as well. So I just took care of that whole screen now, where I do the play here, right? There's my new design screen. So when I scroll now, everything stays fixed. You see that? Nicely fixed again. And then you can navigate through your other stuff. Okay. Well, what's not working here? Well, maybe this should go back to my settings. And by the way, the little details are important. Notice how this is highlighted gray, that this is highlighting. That means this is like your personal login info. This is your settings. This should be like the contacts. Like this should be maybe one of these things highlighted. So I should make that take that into account as well. So I know I'm on that page because the eye recognizes what's deprecated. You know what deprecated means? Like a button that's clicked. They use that term in websites too. When you click on something, it pushes the button or highlights it a color so you know you're there, right? So it's a clear indication. So in that case, I'm going to go here and basically change this as my contacts. Maybe I'll do the phone button. I'll do the phone, okay? So this will be, watch here, I have my color saved. I'll make that my gray element, okay? Or I can make it a darker gray. And this will be back to my yellow element. And how do I save these colors here for consistency? How do I do that? Remember, right click, okay? Color, okay? You can save the color, save the fonts. It's like your style guide. So make sure you use that effectively as well. Let me just change this back to the lighter gray, okay? So that's my contacts, that's my settings. Now here, to go back to the settings, I should go to prototype and connect this back to settings. Just like that, right? And this should always go back to this, right? This should go always to this, sorry? And this should go to this. Yeah, I'm just in prototype right now, and I'm just connecting the dots or the buttons. Once the layout's done, it's quite easy to connect, like this goes here, right?
And what I'm trying to say is the ones I connecting to Figma.
The which one, sorry?
Actually, the icons is connected to the
Yes.
artwork.
So this one's not connected. You know why? Because this is the page. But from here to go there, you can go to this one, right? Or we can go to this. Can go to this one because contacts, right? You see how it's gray? That means this will go here, right? This is here. You have to acquaint yourself with your design. When you make it, you'll know what's going on. You'll see this is that one, right? Okay. Now next is when you go to where is John Doe here? Okay, here Nicholas Holland will be the John Doe. When you click on Nicholas's name, number, or whatever, maybe all three, right? Well, you have to group them if you do that. But check it out. Watch this. I'm going to select the picture, the text, all these items, and group them. When I group them, that means the whole thing, if you click on it, it can go to the actual artboard. You see? So they can go to this. And if I have all these contacts, I have to make all these different artboards, right? You understand? So now this guy, right? Let me just copy this person here, and I'm going to go and delete him over here. So this is my my avatar for the person. And let's get his proper name, Nicholas Holland, right? So maybe I'll just delete this all stuff here, double click and select this, copy and paste it so it's under the right format, and I can just align it all together as well. So this is now my link to this page, right? Again, it's up to you to design this any way you want. And to go back, well, this should be yellow. Maybe this will be the contact. This will be the contact. So this again will go back to this page, right? This can go back to this one. This can go to the settings, right? And this can be deleted. Yeah.
Why do we have these settings on top of all the artworks?
Sorry?
There are settings on top of the artworks. See that?
Which one? Oh, I just forgot to change it. This was like a demo. Yeah, this should change. So this should be like this should be probably login, like login. It's a good point though. Like I'm gonna put like let's make this proper, right? So this will be log in, right? If we want to get all specific here, this is like your sign up, right? Sign up, log in, right? This is the settings. This would be called. This is the contacts, right? And this is the actual contact details or something like that, right? Or contacts info, sure. Okay. Contacts info. Okay, right? Does that make sense? So basically everything is accordingly now. And I'm ready now to see what I did, the final little tweaks, right? And now this will work like a more proper app. So if I go back to the top here, and please bear with me, this is a very simple exercise. I know you guys can do a better job with the design and everything, right? But I use a very basic scheme here. So if I press play, right? Then I press OK to log in, member, sign up, right? Then you can go from anywhere now. Settings. You see how it changes gray and stuff? Oh, this should be. Yeah. Okay. And then, of course, when you go to the contacts, make sure this also works. Got to fix this one here. Right. Okay, perfect. This should not work. This should work. Okay, that's better. All right. So again, there we go. Sign in, sign up, whatever. Right. Settings, contacts. Notice how the sticky menus work well. We click on Nicholas Holland. We go to the Nicholas Holland page. We go back to contacts and blah, 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 right? So these very simple techniques can go a long way. You can make an entire app based on this, right?
I think if I want to make contact for 10 people, I have to create
10 artboards, yeah. Oh. Oh. You know, look, you want me to do it right now? It'll take me 10 minutes to make 10 more contacts. 10 minutes. And you don't have to make, look, if you have like 50 contacts, I don't expect you to make everything linked, okay? As long as you link the top 4, I'm okay with that. You're selling it, I'm your client, you're selling it to me. So if I see what the app looks like, I'm like, you know what? I understand now, this is what the app will look like. That's fine. I approve. Let's go to the development stage now. Now I'm gonna pay the Arrive Can app, you know how much they spend? $60 million. Ridiculous. You know how much it costs to make? $80,000. Okay? And who knows who stole that money? They're investigating right now because the government just went da-da-da-da-da, right? That's what happened, right? Whatever. Yeah. I wish I was his friend at the time. Hey, I'll make an app for you. I'm at home during the pandemic doing nothing, you know? I'll make an app for $60 million. I'll do if we all did a prototype together, we'd make a way better app. We charge them $1 million. Well, they just had no management control. All the stuff I taught you here, they didn't have that implemented. They didn't have a structure. They didn't have the people in charge to do what thing, to do what. They just gave it to a company and they did whatever they want to do with the money. My point is this. This is critical. Once this is approved, then you develop the app. I bet you they didn't even do a prototype. They just made an app to log into the airport security, to get screened, and then to get into Canada. A lot of Americans were not happy. They're like, what the heck is this? I got to download an app. I got to sign up. I tried using it once when I went to Chicago last week. I gave up. I was like, this is ridiculous. They kept going back and forth, the app. So people got discouraged.
I remember when I was from Amsterdam to come back home.
Yeah. How was it?
It was very crazy and
Right? So here, right? So now one more thing. You can ask me one more thing, everybody. Over here. Let's say Holland has information, real content, right? Real content. Let's go to design for a second. You see this here, right? Let's make this into a real content scenario because I do want to show you how to handle this. So I'm going to delete this, right? I'm going to delete this and put some personal information here and show you a nice trick that you can add to your app. Okay, guys, I need everybody. I know it's hard, but I'm almost done. Okay, I'm almost done. Okay, this is a very important part. I'll wait a second. Okay. All right. It's hard for me to talk when you're talking at the same time. All right. So I'm gonna put one more content here. This will be like a scrollable item. You might want to put this into your apps. This is why I want everyone's attention to show you this. So I'm gonna put some brief. I guess bio here or something like that. So I'm going to go out to the internet here very quickly and just type in biography, whatever, right? There, let's go do a biography. I'll just grab this content right here. Okay, you just copy it up and paste it inside this area. So obviously you can get proper, there we go, paste, right? And I'm going to just make this nice and simple, like a 14-point type, right? This is a text box. How do you make a scrolling text box inside a scrolling screen, right? It's called an iframe in HTML terms, right? So what you want to do is this. You want to go over here. You want to enable this little area. This is horizontal. This is vertical. This is if you want to make those little like all album gallery of your thumbnails. We did this on the screen, which is proper, but this is more ideal for something like that. So in that case, I'm going to enable, it's called a vertical scroll attribute. It's very small, so I have to really kind of ingrain it and point it out to you. So once I make this little thing on, all I have to do is adjust this to this position here, and believe me, when you scroll, this now will be like a little iframe. So what happens is when I press play now, and you go to the, John Doe section there, right? Nicholas Holland, right? And you read about it, you can scroll through the information. So it's a nice little scrolling little box. You can pull little arrows if you want, right? So it's a nice little way you can scroll information within information, right? It's a nice way. XD has some nice features, right? That you can really take advantage of. Okay, here's another one. On your phone, what else do you do on your phone? How about swiping like pictures and stuff? So then you can do like a horizontal scroll, right?
Yes, maybe on the
For this one? Yeah, I can do the same example here. Let's just say it was another contact. Let's just say we go to another, let's just do another, look, Command D, watch this. Another duplicate, right? Just like that. So I'm gonna go over here now and perhaps go back to design and perhaps do something like this now. Let's just pretend we're doing like a different way of searching contacts, okay? I'm just gonna make this nice and large like that, right? Again, this doesn't fit in my equation. This is a side example of what you might want to implement in a different structured way. This obviously doesn't fit this app. I just want to point that out. This is just an example of something that you might want to do based on what I just showed you with the scrolling thing. So you ready? So I'm going to grab this picture here. Here's another one. Copy and paste. So maybe I'll do 1, 2. Here's a third one. Option drag, copy and paste. I should have made them all honestly the same size, and then you get the idea, right? You get the idea? Right? There's 3. I could have 10. See, the more you have, the more room you need. It's basically make some room, right? Make some room if you want to put more. So here's how this works. You select all 3, right? And you go back here, and this time you do what's called a horizontal scroll group. And this one, you tie it right to the end of the screen, and you should be able to scroll left and right. So when you do press the play button, right, you can literally go and do this, right? Like with your finger on your phone, like an app when you do that. So not only you can go scroll up and down, you can scroll side to side. And that's why cool little feature, I'm doing it with the mouse now, you can go and do that kind of stuff within the screen. So all this stuff is easy to apply. You just have to organize it in such a way and apply it over here. And yes, there's one that goes all the way around. I don't know if that makes, you know what that would be good for? A map, which I'll do next. I'll do a Google map. You go to Google Maps, what happens? You zoom in, zoom out. I don't know if zooming in and out might work well, but navigating the map will work well. Okay, so if we do the map navigation, that's going to work now. So let's do that scenario. Here's scenario number 3. I'm going to copy this one over here. Why am I going up here? Because I don't want to overlap these images here either, right? Or maybe because I have it capped now, I can actually go ahead and do this. Here I'm going to have a map, a Google map where we can find location of some kind. So for that, I need to go to Google, get a map of some kind, maybe maps, Google Maps, use precise location, sure, allow. Oh, come on, let's just go here. All right, here's a map, right? You ready? How do I get a map from Google onto XD? That's if I was Felicia teaching HTML, I would put a hyperlink, put an iframe, and put the map in there. There's a link you can get from here. You can get an actual link. You know that, right? You can get a Google Map link, put it in your iframe code, and your website will have a map from Google. It's very easy, actually, right? But we can't do that because we don't use that code. We're now using HTML. Yeah. If I have my platforms that I use, my Canadian made products platform, I do pay Google to have a map widget integrated. It's an API key that I use that hooks to my website. But right, but look at this. If you share this, right? Embed a map. If you copy this HTML tag, right? If you copy this tag right now, right? And if you go to I don't know. I'll show you this because it's important here very quickly here. Do I have Dreamweaver? Do I have Dreamweaver? Should I play? I gotta play the song now. You guys know the Dreamweaver song? Who knows the Dreamweaver song? Gary Wright, 1974. Dreamweaver. I'll play it after, okay? Then I can't do it. I play it because you can remember it. It'll stick in your head for the rest of the day. But I'm gonna go. Yes, I have. I'm gonna go to whatever medium theme. Developer standard workspace always works well. Have you used Dreamweaver before? Dreamweaver? Okay, well, it's the best of both worlds. So here's what happens in Dreamweaver. You create a new file, right? It's part of your Adobe Suite package, might as well. Tell you what, when you finish school, right, try Dreamweaver, because now you know HTML. If you don't know HTML, you won't find Dreamweaver exciting. The fact that you're learning HTML with Felicia's class, you can now create a basic HTML page, like this, right? And Visual Studio is great. Like these programs that they came up till now, great tools. But this one's more like a level up because it's Adobe. And two, you can do code, the code view. Oh, let me just click on. Right, cancel, close. So you can do code, split, or live. Live will be design. I don't want it to be live. I want to have a design view. I like to do a split. Split means code and preview of the website at the same time. I don't have to go save, open up Safari or Google Chrome. I mean, I could, but whatever. It's up to you, right? I also like to do this here and split my view mode. Where is it again here? Code view options. Here we go. Oh, what the heck is it here again? Switch views. Nope. Mode. View. I just want to have it left and right. Anyways, it's here somewhere. Where the heck is it's right here. They move the menu sometimes in a while if you haven't used this. But it's under here. Code split. Split we go. Code design. Oh, here we go. Vertically. I was looking for this. Okay. So vertically. And I also like to have this off as well. I love to have code here, design here. You see how I did that? So I went under view and I did this setup here. If you want, look, it's a preference. Who cares, right? Let me make this a little bigger. Here's my HTML document. Are you ready for this now? I did all this just to show you this part. I pasted the iframe from Google Maps, right? So if I come here now, I can control the width and height. 600, 450. I'm also going to do what's called a center tag. Just a quick center, right? So it's centered. Now I'm going to cut this here and paste it down over here just to close the center tag. I'm going to save this as an index HTML file. Just like or maybe you call it map file on my desktop, save, right? And that's all there is to it. I can make this as big as I want, right? Because now what you have here is a map. And let me just move it down here. I just hit return a few times. I can put a title here. This is my map, my Google map, right? And of course, you can go here to your insert and put like a heading here. This could be like my heading 1 tag. So you can use, look, basically you have tools here, right? All the standard HTML tags. You have a lot of code here. You can just basically, because you know code now, and this is your visual. So all you have to do now is when you hit save, right? I can go view now and open up my HTML file, and there's the map. Now watch this. It actually works like a map. Yes, it's a real Google map because you copy the iframe source into your website. So you can do a lot of cool things on this little Google thing. I want to show you this because I'm just by looking at your expression, I thought you wanted to know. So you can use this little trick here. It's very simple, guys. Just went over here. Okay. You go to your share. Same as YouTube video. You know YouTube videos, right? Same thing. Share the code, embed code, copy the embed map, copy and paste. YouTube or maps does the same thing. You put a YouTube video on your website. I never ever upload videos. All the YouTube videos I'm using for my clients now, I make them a YouTube channel. I upload the videos to the YouTube channel, and I source the YouTube on their websites. Why the heck would I download a 2 gig video on the server? You know how long that takes to stream? Use Google, it's free, right? Makes sense. So use the services that are free because they're there, and it helps you guys in many ways. So now let's get back to our stuff. What I was doing is getting a map here. So here's how we do it in XD. You do a Command-Shift-4. Command-Shift-4 means you're doing a screen capture of a big map like this. Try not to get the legends. Okay, Command-Shift-4. Then I go back to XD. Oh, Dreamweaver on one. They both look the same color. See how similar there? XD and DW. They're running out of colors, eh? They use up all the other colors. So here we're going to put the map right here. So we're going to go ahead and drag the map over here, right? Make it smaller, but not too small. I'll make it small enough to fit my app like this. Maybe I'll delete this line as well. So I'll make it go right over here. And now watch this part. I'm going to enable this part. Not horizontal, not vertical, but both at the same time. When I enable this on, the map now will work in accordance to, it goes left, right, up, down, right? So if I press play now, let me just quickly go back here, okay? Oh, shoot, there's no way to get here though. Let me make this button go here, okay? And let me make, I don't know, this button go back here, okay? Whatever, just something to work for now. So again, we know how to do the scrolling thing, right? Now let's do a map thing by going to this picture here. And yes, you can scroll the map anywhere you like, up and down, left and right, because we enabled scrolling on a larger area. We captured the limitation, which is a horizontal vertical. So you do have a fully functioning map. And yes, I can go back here. I can go this way, I can scroll up and down and go back and forth. So these are things that will help you make your app look that much better. That's why you have another week to get it done. So if you're looking for that extra pizzazz, that extra oomph in your app, consider these things I taught you today, okay? All right. Anything else? I think that's enough on your plate, right? Some of these features are not that easily executable in Figma. So that's why XD would be better for this sometimes than Figma, but Figma has a way to do this too. It's just a little different, which I'm going to show you in the next week when we start that part. So for now, take this with you and apply it on your existing projects. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up now by hitting the stop button. It's 2 p.m. exactly. I'm going to hit the stop button. Hope you guys, hope the audio worked well. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to stop the recording and I'll see you in the next class.